This is the quick explainer of um, witness discount that spammers exploit in Bitcoin, and why or how it puts simple transactions in a disadvantage. So let me show you two examples of two transactions. The complex one on the left hand side, and here we've got a simple transaction. You can go to Mempool and see the exact same transaction there. If you open details, as you can see, someone used Taproot and spent um, that amount mm, and sent to two addresses. Um, and we have an example of simple transaction. If we go to Mempool, we can see the same. Someone spent the amount and spent to two addresses. If we go to details, we see it's a transaction, the Taproot type transaction. Um, and yeah, what we can see, we can take from Mempool all the details about the transaction. If we go here and see transaction hacks, then we'll be presented with um, hexadecimal representation of the data that constitute the transaction. So let's go back to the spreadsheet. It shows exactly the same hex data in um, in those two areas. So here we've got the complex transaction and all the data that make up the transaction in hexadecimal form. And we've got also complex transaction, which spans lower, also in hexadecimal form. Every cell here shows 2 digits or nibbles. They constitute a byte. But yeah, anyway. Um, so on there are two colors. So some bytes are marked with red color, and some bytes are marked with green color. And the distinction is that the bytes marked in red, I put the red color here, um, to show which bytes mm, which bytes are required and to pay full price, and which bytes are privileged and can be um, and are just discounted. So what it means is that if you put a byte in Bitcoin, like if you send a transaction, it consists of bytes, and some of the bytes um, are treated differently from the others. Um, yeah, you have to pay a full price per byte for some of them in red, or you can pay just a quarter of the full price. So we say that there is 75% discount for some of the bytes. The discount was introduced with SegWit in 2017. And so here we've got this summary that the simple transaction, which we see here, it consists of 205 bytes. The complex transaction, it consists of many more bytes. As you can see, I summed them, and the sum is shown here. So 767 bytes. And now let's see which bytes and how many bytes are entitled to the discount. So as you can see in simple transaction, there are not that many of them entitled to the discount. So most of the bytes are actually like you have to pay the full price for each of the red byte pushed to the network. While in complex transaction, we have many more bytes which are treated differently. So so they cost less, 75% less. So as you can see, in complex transactions we have 642 such bytes, while in a simple transaction we have 68 such bytes. While we have to pay, like the one who made the transaction paid the full price for 125 bytes in complex transactions, so mostly those bytes here. And in simple transaction, the issuer had to pay for 137 bytes. What it means? It means that overall, if we take the whole transaction as a whole, then there are less bytes which cost the full price in the complex transaction. So effectively, the discount for the complex transactions in that example, it amounted to 63%. In extreme case, it could reach almost 75%. The bigger the transaction is, the bigger the effective discount. And there is this disproportion between the two transactions, right? Because the simple transaction, it benefited from only 25% discount. So, in other words, if someone pays for a byte to push to the network, to Bitcoin, then if they use complex transaction, then they have the price multiplier at 1.5. While if they push the same byte using simple transaction, then they pay, in that particular case, then they pay 3 like multiplier, the price that was multiplied by 3 per byte. So it means that oh yeah, and one just before I jump to the conclusion, let me also show you why I chose those two examples for the comparison. So this simple transaction is just a regular transaction where you just someone just paid another person and saved the change to for themselves, and therefore there were two outputs, as we call it in Bitcoin. While that complex transaction is kind of yeah, type of that transaction is very popular right now in Bitcoin. Um, and what I want to, you will, I will show you why. So I will just open open the transaction again in mempool, and show you some some values or some data that are that is particularly um, interesting. So if you take the data and you convert it from hexadecimal representation to ASCII or just text, then you will see something readable. We can see that this is kind of a spam which someone pushed to Bitcoin. And that spam is shown here, like that the data that constitute that spam, it's shown here with with a lot of like with this darker background, like in let me show you. Mm, so you can see almost something around 500 bytes of spam, except for those bytes. So let's see. Right now we have 505 bytes, which are spam, complete spam, and also some additional bytes, uh, which made um, which made publishing the spam possible. So we call it opcodes, um, and some other data. Without them, it wouldn't be possible to put that the data that we could convert to, let's say, readable form. So mm, so yeah, you can see that you can input data to Bitcoin, um, paying either of the two prices. And what spammers exploit is this discount witness. So they pay just they push the bytes and exploit the 75% discount, while just simple transactions, um, they pay the full price for most of the bytes in the transaction. Only a small percentage of the bytes enjoy the discount, and you may ask, okay, so why just not use the discount for the whole transaction? Why not just put all of the data, all of those bytes, uh, in the transaction as if they were uh, mm, entitled, or subject to the discount. So, for example, we could put all the data from here to this area, and then they could be um, they could be treated as the one subject to the discount, right? And that would be very good question. That shows the absurdity of the witness discount. So, you know, it's just arbitrary, um, like introduction of two different pricing plans, um, and completely ineffective, and it incentivize um, spam to the network because you pay, or a person pays smaller fee, or just smaller fee for arbitrary data that they put in Bitcoin, while somebody who wants to just make a simple normal transaction has to pay much more for most of the bytes. And what's what's even more, like furthermore, they can even, if you make a simple transaction, then you don't have the same privilege to extend the block size. So assuming that all the block that typically is created every 10 minutes, let's assume that all of the block uh, consists of simple transactions, then uh, it will, its size will not exceed 2 megabytes. While if you make just one complex transaction, then you're kind of privileged to put 4 megabytes in that block, in that one complex transaction. And so what I'm trying to say is that um, spammers, or other people who use complex transactions, they have the right to push more data to the network in one block, unlike um, you know, which is different from the simple transaction, right? Where we can just um, put no more than 2 megabytes of data in the block. What it means that um, if there's a lot of spam, um, then it's pushed to the network, and it takes more time to validate the block. It consumes more bandwidth, it consumes more CPU, it consumes more storage, and there is no benefit from it. There is no transfer of bitcoins. Like there is just one transfer of bitcoin in uh, that transaction. Um, but yeah, just imagine that there is, and there was an example of a complex transaction that was 4 megabytes, huge, and yeah, and it just spent from one address to another. So it was just a single transaction where BTC moved. All of the all the rest was just garbage, just this um just overhead, something that was totally useless. Um, yeah, and didn't move uh, any bitcoins. Um, so yeah, to summarize, there are probably two major mm, differences between those two transactions. One is that just simple transaction is put at disadvantage. It costs more. Um, so you have to pay more um, for every byte that you want to um, uh, push to the network in simple transaction. Um, while complex transactions, they exploit um, witness discount, and so um, yeah, it's uh, just yeah. So that's one of the difference, and the other difference is that um, if you push data using complex transactions, that you have right to extend the block size, uh, effectively double the block size, um, which you can't do if you just um, push a simple transaction. Yep. So that's the quick explainer of the difference. And onto examples. One of a simple transaction where which is used to transfer bitcoins from an address to another and saving the change, while the other transaction is an example of spam uh, called BRC something, um, which right now it's uh, um, it's the beginning of 2024. Uh, such transactions um, constitute the majority of transactions in the network, so they um, mm, just um, make the network less uh, usable for um, for simple transactions for transfer of bitcoins, and for those users who want to transfer bitcoins, it make it more expensive for them because they have to compete in this unfair uh, um, price um, uh, discrimination, and yeah, and mm, they just kind of um, yeah, there are more and more such transactions because yeah, they just can exploit this mm, witness discount, and as such generate um, more volume, more uh, bytes pushed in the network, more data to be processed by the nodes. Um, so effectively, they just clog um, or almost jam the network with um, more cost-effective transactions, and so um, yeah, just lower marginal cost, which means that uh, the more volume they generate, um, the lower the additional cost of every byte, and um, that's I would say that's a um, serious situation, and yeah, I hope that's um, yeah. Just if there are any questions, let me know. I would love to hear from you and mm, update that mm, recording, like record again with you know improving the way that I presented the data, and so I need your input. So yeah, let me know uh, if uh, if you think if there is anything I could improve uh, for the audience to better understand um, this um, witness discount and how it is exploited by spammers.